Joining me now, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter and Sirius XM Patriot host Stacy Washington. Ladies, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Stacy, I want to go to you because you're in St. Louis. You know all about the crazy DAs. You got Kim Gardner there, and you got mayors that, in so many cases, that support these DAs. So what do you think is going to be the verdict in New Orleans? Are we going to finally get more leadership in these liberal cities?
Well, Lawrence, thanks for having me on tonight. And I actually think you're going to see someone who's to the right of a Lori Lightfoot or a Mayor Cantrell, but far less than what you would see if they had a moderate Republican or a full-blown America First candidate in their city. So it takes a while for a city to shift over to the left. And it will take a considerable amount of time and effort on the part of the GOP to shift these cities to the right. But we're seeing the backlash, which is actually good to understand that crime is it's not a left-right issue. Crime is a people issue. When people are afraid, they vote differently. So this is a good sign.
So, Sarah, we've been friends for a long time.
Yes,
and
we
we have these conversations. You're Latin, I'm black, and we talk about Republican outreach. I just don't understand how no Republican. I understand it's going to be a tough race, but you got to connect with the voters and not one Republican in the race. I just don't get that.
Yeah, I don't get it either. And I think this is one of our greatest failures. And I hope it doesn't stay this way. I think what's very important is that we have to understand that people across this country know when someone is lying to them. People across this country know when they can believe in someone that's a leader, that someone's going to take control and help them and help their communities. And the Republican Party, as much as it talks, really hasn't been there. We saw it more under President Trump with leadership growing. And I think we're going to start seeing that more in the coming years. We have more Hispanic leaders, but I think this is a grassroots effort, and I think Stacy's right. We have to have leaders within these communities that are willing to stand up and say, we're not going to take this anymore. We see that with Mayor Cantrell. Look, people should not have to walk their kids home from the school bus to be stepping over people on the streets or needles or trash in their communities. And I think eventually what happens is there is a backlash. People stand up, they vote people out of office. They need lawmakers that will believe in them. And not only do I agree with Stacy, but I agree with you, Lawrence. You and I have talked about this for a long time. The Republican Party will not win unless it moves forward, takes charge, and says, look, we are never going to be leaving your community. We're here for you. We believe in you. We believe in small business. We believe in you, and we will stay with you. If we can't do that, we will not see the Conservative Party make the headway that it needs to make in communities, in big cities like Chicago, in New Orleans, which is one of my favorite cities in the world.
Stacy, what do you think needs to happen?
Well, first off, I think the GOP could just campaign year-round. And I understand there's a fundraising issue, right? But when we want something, we make it happen. If the GOP really wants to make inroads in the cities, it has to be a year-round campaign. It has to be a door-knocking, informational campaign. And it has to be something where leaders are plugged into communities. Here in Missouri, we have seen people run statewide and actually go into the black community in North County here in St. Louis and really make inroads by showing up at churches, talking to people at their workplaces, going and being seen in the neighborhood and getting to know business owners. And through that work, they have, it was our last lieutenant governor, I think 3 cycles ago, he was continually reelected and had a huge segment of the black vote, because that's the way he behaved. He treated the black community like a viable voting bloc. And voting is transactional, as you both know. You should be getting something back for your vote. And if your community is plagued by poor schools, crime, drugs, a lot of drug dealing, we see a lot of that in poorer communities, then you should be looking for someone who's going to give you something for your vote instead of telling you that you're a victim and that racism is the real cause of all of your problems. Democrats have wrought this carnage on Black America and our poor areas, and now they're bringing it to the suburbs and the major cities, and it's got to stop.
It got to end. We deserve better, and I think with having leaders like you pushing the party to do the right thing, we'll get that change. Thanks so much for joining me. Stacy will make her debut on Outnumbered next week. I'll be joining her next Wednesday.